Right, let's now return to one of our top stories. And Israel starts deporting hundreds of activists detained on the ships trying to bring aid to Gaza. Hanin Zouabi, who's a member of the Israeli parliament, was among those captured on board of Gaza-bound ships. And she's been released ever since and can talk to us now. Hanin, so tell us what happened on the ship you were on.
First of all, what happens was before the Israeli ships surrounded us. I would say that the story doesn't begin from the moment the Israeli soldiers were on the ship. And the main question is why the Israeli ships approached us while we were 130 meters from the shore of Gaza, and while we were 100 meters from the away in the international water. So this is the first question. But Israel does not want to ignore this question. Now, at 4:30, 14 Israeli ships surrounded Marmara ship, the main ship of the flotilla, and the helicopter full of soldiers dropped, I don't know, 10 or more Israeli soldiers. I was in the third floor where the press room is located and where the captain room is located. Those who were around me in the third floor were 40 journalists, a couple of the group of organizers, and the nurse. No one of them was armed. The 14 Israeli ships, maybe 13, maybe 12, something like that approximately, started to shoot. Before the Israeli soldiers entered the ship, maybe, I don't know if all the ships, I saw 2 ships shoot in the direction before any Israeli soldier was inside the ship. After 10 minutes during the...
Hanin, yes. As you said earlier, there are a lot of questions to be answered then. One of the questions that I want to ask you is that, when the news of the attack just broke, the Israeli army said that it was, the Israeli military rather said it was provocation, and also that they were giving warning signals to the ships, and no one paid attention. How much of this is true?
My question is, I don't have the full story. I don't say that I own the comprehensive story and all the truth. I witnessed when I was, and the time that I was on the second floor, on this floor, on the third floor. But my question is, if the one side who has the all documentation of the story is the Israeli army. The Israeli army shuts the camera, disconnected us from the satellites, and after that boycott all the cameras of the journalists and also of the passengers. So my question is, why the Israeli army released just the shoots and just the documentation related to the Israeli injured? What about the documentation related to the dead bodies? There is a documentation related to 10 dead bodies and to about 50 injured. So the Israeli army has the full documentation, and the one who you should address him in order to answer this question is the Israeli army.
Okay, well,
the journalist, should go to the Israeli army and say to him, release all the documentation, also this documentation, which is related to the dead bodies and about 50 injuries.
I have to interrupt you there. I'm sorry. Well, Hanin, you are a member of the Israeli parliament. So what consequences do you think the country now faces?
We must first of all remember that the story and the issue is not the flotilla. The issue is the siege upon Gaza. This flotilla is a humanitarian aid, but with a political message, with a very clear political message to break the siege upon Gaza. So we need an investigation, a committee. We are calling for an international investigation committee to ask all the documentation from the Israeli army. There are now in Israel about 500 passengers whom Israel is still arresting. So please let Israel, let the people, let the journalists make interviews with these 500 journalists, and let the Israeli army release all the documentation. We need this international committee to investigate what happened, why and how come Israel is above the international law and it approached a flotilla which is 100 miles far from the international water.
I have to interrupt you once again. That's all we have the time for. But thanks very much indeed for being here with us in the program. Very much appreciated. Haneen Zouabi, a recently released Gaza activist and a member of the Israeli parliament.
לא יודעים לפרגן אפילו. לכי תדברי במדינה שלך רע על המדינה, מעלימים אותך. אז תגידי משהו טוב עכשיו על מדינת ישראל, נראה, תגידי משהו טוב על מדינת ישראל, נראה אותך. את לא חוזרת לשידור.
So basically he's saying that the Israeli army is wrong for not just wiping off the ship and killing everyone on top of it and burning it. Stop whispering. Stop.
בלי שהוא ישמע. אני רוצה שכולם יתפוצצו, וגם את ביניהם.
Okay, so this guy is like he
תגידי, עכשיו פיצצו מסגדים באפגניסטן, למה אף אחד לא מדבר?
את בפעם הבאה.
למה אף אחד לא מדבר?
את גם מחברת שמוצצת. יאללה, הביתה.
היום פיצצו מסגד אתמול, איפה כל אלה?
עם ישראל חי! עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי! עם ישראל, עם
They're basically now starting to scream death to the Arabs in the face of the left wing.
ספינות שלך המעפילים يا عبد سهر يا غدا زخيم